Oh man, on my way to work this morning, listening to the radio, listening to them talk about this 33-year-old woman up in Niagara Falls who went over the railing, jumped 200 feet to her death in the falls, took along her 9-year-old child and her baby. And then they said people who knew her were flooding social media with tributes to her. I was thinking, what kind of tributes are you giving this idiot, this murderer who killed her own children? You know, I know people will say we have to have sympathy for people. You never know what they're going through, and we never do. You don't know how screwed up in the head people are or what's going on in their life. But you know, there are certain inflexible standards of behavior for human beings, if we even want to call ourselves humans and have a civilized society on this planet. And one of the most basic fundamental ones is that you're not allowed to take another human's life unless you're doing it as an act of self-defense. You know, it's just not an acceptable thing. That's the most fundamental, basic standard that we have to have if we're going to have a human civilization on this planet. And especially to murder one's own children. You know, that's why some people, you know, whichever side of the issue you happen to be on, you know, but that's one reason why you see so many people who are so opposed to abortion, because as far as they're concerned, you know, you're murdering your own child. You know, even though they haven't left the womb yet, you know, that's still, it just triggers that kind of basic primal instinct in people to protect someone's children. And I'm just wondering, you know, like when they say tributes, what kind of tributes? Oh, she was a wonderful person. You know, oh, she loved those children so much. And, you know, we have to take into account people's emotions and feelings and what they're going through and stuff. But as a society, we have to have certain rules. And those rules have to be inflexible, you know? They have to be. Obviously, what are you going to do to someone who kills themselves and their children? They're gone. No, it's not like you can punish them. And no amount of punishment will bring back the people that someone murdered. That's one of the, you know, the horrible things about the justice system is, you know, how do you define justice? You can't bring back the people who were murdered. You know, maybe in some future time, if we had time travel, we could go back and, you know, after we see the crime has been committed, and go back and stop it. But other than that, there's nothing we can do about it, you know? It's done. But that's, and, you know, I know people who know someone, you never want to say bad things about them if there was someone that you were close to or whatever, or a friend or a coworker, and people are hesitant to criticize. But I just can't see flooding social media with tributes to someone who murdered their children. Maybe it's just me. I don't think it's just me, you know, but that just struck me as really bizarre, the way they put that when I was listening to the radio. I can't picture it. I can see expressing horror that someone would do something so terrible, but, you know, we as a species have become far too accustomed to people having their lives cut short by the deliberate, violent actions of other people who are supposed to be humans. And that's sad. You know, it's just a daily thing for us, and it shouldn't be. You know, if we were striving to have a really advanced human civilization on this planet, the only time any human would ever die would be by purely accidental result of something, you know? The idea that we call ourselves humans, we call ourselves advanced, and there are people out there engaging in offensive acts of violence against other human beings and taking their lives is repulsive. You know, those creatures, in my opinion, aren't really even human, you know? They're subhuman creatures walking around in human form. Because every single one of us, you know, we have the option of engaging in human behavior or acting like some kind of savage animal. And that's a deliberate choice that we make. I understand people have different situations in their life that lead them down different paths, but you can see people who are horribly abused and all kinds of different things in their childhood, and still they grow up, they overcome that and become humans, you know? And they are capable of recognizing there are certain things you just don't do. And every single one of us as a human being has that in us. You know, that you go all the way back to the book of Genesis and the tree of the knowledge of good and bad. You know, we know and we have the ability to choose to do either good or bad. We can try and make excuses and blame things and talk about external factors, but ultimately, in the end, you know, we're all fallible. Obviously, we all make mistakes. But, you know, anyone, if they engage in a deliberate, violent act against someone without any kind of justification at all, there's something wrong with them, you know? And it's just not behavior that can be tolerated. In this case, of course, well, what are you going to do, you know? It's not like you can punish this person for their behavior because they're already dead. Anyways, those are my cheery thoughts for this morning.